Welcome to the Past Life Project. I'm Monique, hypnotherapist and regression specialist. Let me bring you into my world where just another day in the office is not your typical desk job. In each episode, we will be delving into the extraordinary realm of past lives through my own therapy practice, client stories and interviews, and conversations with practitioners that are utilizing past lives as a powerful modality for healing. Tune in to find out how people just like you are healing from a range of physical, emotional, and spiritual issues by exploring their previous incarnations. Are you ready to dive into the future of therapy? It's time to turn back time with the Past Life Project. Welcome to the Past Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Monique, hypnotherapist and regression therapy specialist. Today, I have Dr. Lilan Laishley with me, who is an authority on reincarnation and past life therapy. In addition to a Ph.D. in religious studies, she holds a master's degree in counseling, is a consulting and teaching astrologer, and is certified in past life therapy, where she has led thousands of client sessions and has supervised other therapists. As a university professor, she has traveled the world investigating sacred sites, teaching religion, and presenting papers at academic conferences. Lilan is the author of 2 books, Past Lives and Present Purpose, and The Labyrinth and Sacred Cosmos. Welcome, Lilan. I think we have lots of ground to cover.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. So tell me, what an amazing journey you have been on and have a just vast education in all sorts of fields. How did you get started? How did you go down this rabbit hole?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was an incredibly intuitive child. Okay. I used to see astral figures walking around the house that didn't actually exist there. And I would have dreams on the astral plane. So I was like that as a kid. And it was a little weird, I admit. And one of the things, I would walk around my neighborhood and I would go, when I come back, do I want to be a bird or a tree? Because birds are free to fly, but trees are rooted. But even that, I was thinking at that time, when I come back, I had already had some sense that I would be back. And so the very first past life experience I had was probably when I was 20, and it was a full-blown dream that showed everything in it. And it was me as a priest who had, was having an affair with one of the parishioners. So I had lost my vows, and it's one of the stories in the book. That came to me fully formed. And so that got me interested in past lives. Then I got a degree in counseling in my hometown university. And I couldn't wait to get out of town. Trust me on this one. I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, which is a lovely town, but it's like a small town. So I moved to Cincinnati and worked in a restaurant, which was run by a Kundalini ashram. So there was meditation, it was like they had a meditation room
in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And one of the things that kicked, because I worked as a waitress a lot, one of the things that got me when the rush came in is usually when you go nuts, they'd be sitting in the kitchen, meditating in the middle of the rush. I was like, this is insane. But I met 2 women there who were very interested in astrology, and they were moving to Boston to study with this particular astrologer. And I just wanted to move to Boston. But astrology is a language, a symbolic language. And so when I moved to Boston with them, they would talk astrology all the time, and I started picking it up. So I started going to the classes. Her name was Isabel Hickey. And in addition to her astrology classes, she did something called the Friday Night Fix. And it was more like spiritual, psychic stuff. Like, she even talked about at a funeral, she would see the dead person's spirit at a funeral. So I guess it was just assumed that all of this stuff was true, that I was experiencing it. I wasn't just reading about it in books. And then from Boston, I went to New York City and I got my master's degree there. And I had read Morris Netherton's book, Past Life Therapy, and was very interested in it. And in the master's program, you had to pick an area that was your focus. And most people picked alcoholism or geriatrics or something. And I picked past life therapy, and they actually let me do it. You can believe that. And so I found a past life therapist who had been trained by Netherton. She lived in New Jersey, so I had to take the bus there. And then I went to California and studied with Dr. Netherton. And he would have like a group of maybe like 10 students, and we would work with each other. And that was so I would do sessions with them and they would do sessions with me. And that's when the Atlantis lifetime came up. That's in my book. And I had never had any thought about Atlantis. It was such a powerful life. I worked it like twice in sessions and still had some energy left. Um, so, and then I've always been interested in like Carl Jung's work and active imagination. And I did my master's thesis on Carl Jung and how it integrates with the tarot. They let me do this stuff. I still can't believe it. And I know it's wild, isn't it? And so then I went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I worked in an adolescent treatment center, and I became a licensed professional counselor. Had to do continuing education units, had insurance, worked in private practice, saw people in past life therapy. And it was truly therapy, not just regression. I mean, the people would come in with therapeutic issues. And then I had to go back to West Virginia because my dad had just died and my mother was dying, and my family needed me to be there to help out. And so I went back to West Virginia and worked with a psychiatrist there and did astrology readings and past life therapy, and worked in a psychiatric hospital. I worked in a hospital for youth and addictions. So I sort of covered all the bases, and that's what surprises me. And then I went to Pittsburgh and loved the town and applied for my PhD, and they accepted me. And at that point, I wanted to work on astrology. And they were like, no way. Today, people have more interest in astrology. I think it's gaining some respect. But back then, as soon as I mentioned astrology, one person I interviewed actually said, when I asked about astrology, he said, if you believe in astrology, you won't make it in this program because you obviously don't have any sense at all. So that was kind of thing. But so at the University of Pittsburgh, they wouldn't let me do astrology, but I did ritual and religious studies and symbolism. And that's when I got into the Labyrinth and really working with the Labyrinth and seeing how all these different rituals could occur in the Labyrinth. And all this time I continued to do, past life work. And when I was in Pittsburgh, I met my husband at a conference in Toronto. He was the head of the religion department. Hinduism and Buddhism were his focuses. And we connected, and I ended up moving to Chattanooga to be with him. And that was an amazing process. I had my own healing art studio. I had, full-time clients. And sometimes I would do something called an intensive, where either I would go someplace and work with people, or somebody would come to me and we'd do 2 sessions a day for 5 days. So we'd do 10 sessions, real intensive on some issue or another that they had. And so I had a lot going on in Chattanooga. It was really a lovely place. And one of the things what happened is my husband and I took 12 students to India for 6 weeks. And everybody had to have a topic that they were going to study. And I thought, well, I'll study astrology because India loves astrology. It's everywhere. So I had my chart done by several people, and one guy said, you've got bad karma when it comes to relationships. I'm thinking, oh, really? I guess that's why I'm on my 3rd marriage. That might have something to do with it. And so he said, let's do a ritual. at a temple that's specifically there to get rid of negative karma. It was for the nodes of the moon. And so we went and did this major ritual, and I actually wrote a paper on it, and it's on my website. It's got pictures, and um, the temples were just amazing. And so again, that comes into the past life stuff, like the karma. He could see my karma in the chart and wanted to clear it out. And now I've been married to my husband for 22 years, and we've got a good marriage, and it's been wonderful. So I think it worked, I guess. So now he retired, and we decided to move back to Pittsburgh because I really liked Pittsburgh. But it's a lot of work to create a private practice. And I said, if we move to Pittsburgh, I'm not going to start another private practice. I just didn't want to do it. And he said, okay. So I still do astrology readings, but I don't do the past life therapy anymore. So that's how I got into it. And um, and one reason I got a PhD is I wanted to know about reincarnation on every level. And sometimes I still teach. And I teach, it's called OSHER, it's adult education programs at major universities. And I actually did a whole class on reincarnation and was surprised to find out how many Native American tribes believe in reincarnation. I mean, 30, like all these different religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhs, there's over like 20 billion people or something that believe in reincarnation. And you've probably heard of the work of Ian Stevenson, who he was a professor at the University of Virginia who did all that work with children. And young children between like 2 and 5 will remember their past lives. But older kids then forget because their mind gets so active. They're not still connected to their intuition and their unconscious, So, and he's written several books. He's no longer alive either, but so there's definitely evidence and support for reincarnation. It's typically not part of the Christian beliefs. It used to be back in the olden days, you know, um, and then it was taken out. But so anyway, that's how I got into it, and I still think it's fascinating. It's really very, very powerful work, I think, the past life therapy. Yeah. So is that what you wanted to know?
Yes, yes. Oh, absolutely. I'm curious, have you found that shift, at least, I don't know, in the academia sphere? Because I've even had the experience when I did my clinical hypnotherapy training was through a university program, and the instructor was not allowed to talk about past lives or ancestral lives or any.
That's
No.
mind-boggling.
If we wanted to learn more about that, we had to sign up with a separate course that was not affiliated with the university with the instructor. And I think in the era we're in, that's such a strange way of, I don't know. I mean, yes, I believe there are still some of those structures in place, but it's interesting to hear you see how it's shifted, even throughout your educational journey, the acceptance of, well, why not?
Why not? I still can't believe that Hunter College in New York let me be, and when we would have to analyze a patient and think, well, what could be? I'd be writing, well, maybe in a past life they did X, Y, and Z. But they were open to it, and I don't, I'm not, I don't, but I think nowadays it's even getting with AI and stuff we're talking about, the the main arts and sciences are going away. I mean, it's like we used to take these courses to learn how to think, to learn how to analyze data, to be able to compare things. And now, a lot of the programs in universities are not being funded, or they're not teaching languages anymore. So in some ways it almost feels like the university system is going backwards. Um, students don't do their own papers anymore. They have AI do it for them. So um, still you would think that if somebody's talking about hypnosis, they'd be willing to at least think about unconscious memories. Because, I believe that, well, not just believe, but we have two sections to the brain. The left brain is the logical, analytical brain, and the right brain is the unconscious and works with symbolism and imagination and imagery and dreams and such like that. So it's like we need both parts. And I don't know. This is an odd time on the planet. But some ways I feel like having as much education as I do, I overcompensated because people just assumed I was stupid if I was an astrologer. The therapy part, because I just didn't do. I was a licensed professional counselor. I did continuing education units. I had insurance. I worked with psychiatrists and in treatment centers. So that part was just like my therapeutic area. But the astrology, people thought I was stupid. And I was like, well, I'm not stupid, and I'll prove it to you. I'll get a Ph.D. That'll show you.
But I'm sure you also gained the ears and the audience of those that might not have listened or just have written off. So in the process, influencing all of those people. And who knows, even that person that told you you would make it through the program, which you obviously did. I wonder if that just planted a seed, that we're always planting these seeds and we might not actually see them come to fruition. But who knows? I don't know what happened to that. Like, who knows what happened to that person? Maybe.
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, and this is just for anybody who's thinking of going for an advanced degree. I wanted to study. I've met the Dalai Lama. Okay, so I love Tibet and I love Tibetan Buddhism, and I wanted to study Tibetan Buddhism at the University of Pittsburgh. Well, they don't have anybody that teaches Tibetan Buddhism. Do you see what I mean? So I went around and interviewed all the professors and took notes of because you can go to a place and want to study Tibetan Buddhism or want to study past life work, but if nobody there does it, they're not going to let you do it. And that's a really important thing because I would never have known that if I didn't do it myself. So you want to interview the professors and find out what their areas are. And then when you write your letter of admission, to be admitted, you can use some of their language so you even sound like you belong.
Interesting. It's really interesting. And even what you said about learning how to think, I think that was a moment that struck me. Yes, that's what it was meant to be, is an institution to learn how to think. And if we're removing all of that, we're removing that process and that creative process in between as well, and outsourcing it, then it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it does. Because we're when you think the two sides of the brain, they need to communicate. And that's what I call consciousness. If your right brain and your left brain are both active and they communicate with each other. And that's why I love dreams and symbols and rituals and all that kind of stuff, because that pulls everything together. But yeah, no, this is a challenging time, I think, for universities. I really do.
And do you find doing as much education as you did that across cultures? I mean, you even mentioned in India, it was just something astrology was openly talked about. Do you find with past lives as well that across cultures there's a different understanding and acceptance than in North America?
Oh, I mean, if you're Hindu or Buddhist, being, believing in reincarnation is just part of it. I mean, that astrologer who, he was Hindu and they had a temple, just for that purpose. And they had priests come in and chant over me and, all this kind of stuff. So I think it depends on where you are and what culture you're part of. If you're in the deep South in a, really strong Christian community that won't have anything else, you're not going to do real well there. But, there's a lot of people that are open. I mean, clearly you're doing these podcasts as an indication.
Yes, yes. And I mean, that was my goal. I want to go across the board and talk to people that are exploring past lives in different capacities. And not only for the interest, because I mean, to me, it's fascinating, but the therapeutic aspect and how we're actually using this as a healing modality so that people in this life can live bigger, freer, more, peaceful lives. I'm curious what you've seen in your work as far as that goes, as far as, okay, yes, it's endlessly fascinating, but what has been some of the results of even your personal experience of exploring these lives?
Yeah. Well, as the therapist, and I definitely was a therapist, and they'd come in and have I had one client, like, he was depressed because his girlfriend of 2 months dumped him and he felt like he was useless and he was alone and he'd never be with anybody ever again. And he actually said the words when I was working with him. It feels like my sister, mother, and grandmother all died at the same time. Okay, that's a really heavy thought compared to he'd been dating this woman for 2 months. So we went in and found that soul wound where that did happen in another life. And he was alone in a house out in a prairie. And those people weren't there for him. And he felt completely devastated. And once he realized, and then, you clear that out, you heal that soul wound. I mean, that's part of what happens. He was like, fine. He was like, oh, well, um, she's no longer with me, but I'll move on. But that just when that's one of the main ways I think you find people get triggered by things. Something happens that shouldn't get the response that it gets, and you're actually healing those wounds, those soul wounds. I mean, I think past life regression is all about the soul. Um, and that's one thing I say in my book. We're not a body with a soul. We are a soul with a body. And that's a completely different way of looking at life, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did that change the way you started to look at your work with that, just that phrase alone? I think, wow, that flips the perspective right on its head.
It really does. Well, like I say about my book on past lives is my soul wrote the book. I learned a lot. So, I edited it. It wrote it. It wrote the stories, because, it wrote it. But just to be able to tap in at that level, I guess, to, and I think that's what a lot of artists are. There's a part of them that they tap into a different level, and um, because our critical mind will say, "Oh, this is stupid," or "You shouldn't do that," or "This is a waste of time," or whatever. And the unconscious is like, "Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing! I'm healing, I'm getting better, I'm recreating." So it really is. I think a lot of it is it's stimulating your intuitive unconscious mind, and so that our intellect doesn't dictate our lives so much, you know, because I think we all tend to be a little self-critical, and so I'm working really hard on not letting my intellect drive me, not to make it a misery-making machine. I don't want my mind to be a misery-making machine.
Yes. Well, it's a balance, isn't it? Especially, I feel in an era where we prioritize the intellect over the intuition. And yes, I agree. I feel like it's shifting, but not quite there. Maybe shifting in some groups in some ways, but in general, and even talking about universities and intuitions, the science and the facts and what you can see and measure versus feel and intuit are have different, I don't know, different priorities and places.
It is different. And I feel like that's part of what happened to me is going into the PhD program is so intellectual. Um, that it stimulated my intellect to such an extent. I also do shamanic journeying, which is kind of like active imagination and sort of this, similar, you're moving into your unconscious. And I saw that I buried my soul at the university. And I thought, I've got to dig that back up. Um, yeah. So no, and it's getting more so. I mean, it really is. It'll be interesting to see what happens with education and everything. Yeah. So, but you must have a real sense of how much people can be healed by doing the past life work, right?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. And even if I will tell people, even if you come here with no belief in past lives, and if for you, you want to think it's a metaphor created by your subconscious to get you, well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that your belief in past lives or your non-belief in past lives, that your healing doesn't hinder on your belief. And I think it does open up minds because people realize that I couldn't have made that up. I couldn't have brought in that detailed, historically accurate information. There was no show or book or movie that I read that could have influenced me. And it opens up not only the door to actually true lasting healing from the root, but opens up your mind to, like you said, this process of connecting with your imagination, with your intuition, with connecting to what's more. And I'll frequently see clients after sessions that not only resolve the physical, the mental health piece that they were seeking, but it opens them up to so much more in life, a more kind of enriching, intuitive experience and connecting in this way that use more of their senses than needing to know the facts.
Right. No, absolutely. Because I don't know, but it feels to me like a lot of people are talking about dimensions right now, different dimensions of reality, different dimensions in the space, different dimensions. And I really believe there is a spiritual, cosmic, whatever you want to call it, dimension. And, the past life work kind of moves you into that. It opens that up for you. So, so when you're sitting outside and watching the sunset and hearing the birds sing, you might feel transported in a way you never were before because you've opened up that connection. Yeah. And so it does help, the physical body and the human being get over their wounds and their blockages. There's no question about it. But I think sort of a side aspect of it, or maybe the main reason, I don't know, is to open up a whole nother dimension of reality, you know, um, that people are not that connected to. Because people used to feel that when they went to church, but church going has gone downhill. Less than 50% of the people go to church anymore, according to Pew Research. And there's so many churches that are, closed up and boarded up. And I think people used to get that feeling when they went to church. Um, but now the people aren't going to church like they used to. I mean, it's especially the younger generation. So it's like I think doing this kind of deep inner work is keeping that sacred dimension alive,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's smacking us upside the head. I feel like we have to, that our survival depends on it right now, and not to be in this like, oh, this is a very, big epic way. But if you look at the research, people are getting sicker and sicker, and there's less and less explanations, and the body is shouting louder and louder. And I feel like that's the portal, that's the missing piece, is that we have the physical piece, but we need to look at the energetics. And I mean, I'll tell you the amount of people I've seen with mental health diagnosis is, where it's an actual, some sort of energetic interference, and that's what's actually going on behind the scenes. And then they get better once you resolve what's happening there, or introducing the concept of energetic boundaries, and what are we taking in and what's ours and what's not ours, especially with the younger generation of kids and teens that are highly sensitive and like energetic sponges and don't really know what they're doing, that we need to embrace it and figure it out, because the suffering is going to just keep escalating. It's like all these collective bodies are shouting and getting sicker of, if you can't ignore the symptoms, then you need to look into it and start going inwards for guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see 6 kids walking down the street nowadays and they're all on their phone. They're not connecting to each other, and they're starting to ban cell phones in the schools, which I think is a good thing. Um, but no, I agree. And this beautiful planet that we're on, that's what I tend to be very environmentally focused, but I mean, this is a miracle planet. There's nothing like it in our solar system, and who knows in our galaxy, but this is such a precious planet and we're destroying it. We need more consciousness. You know what I mean? We need to raise our consciousness. And I think we do that by blending the unconscious soul spirit with our everyday life. If it's like if we create too much of a separation there, I want money, I want this, I want that, I want this. It's like it doesn't matter if I destroy the planet. We can go to Mars. We can go to Mars and live.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they have trees like this in Mars and birds like this, and you know what I mean? So we need to raise the consciousness, and what's happening is, I think that's one of the things that the work that you're doing does. It opens up that dimension. And I hadn't thought about it until right now while we're talking about it. I think that's probably a really important secondary gain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
The people
Yeah.
don't come seeking that. They want help with their migraine or their IBS or their whatever physical mental issue is coming up, their relationship. And then all of a sudden it opens this door to, wow, that wasn't what I consciously wanted, but I guess my subconscious had other ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, you're stimulating the unconscious, because that's one of the things about Stevenson's work, is that the children who remembered their lives were like 2 and 4 years old. And then by the time they got to be like 7, they had no memory. And I've got little kids that live around this neighborhood, and I get such a kick out of watching them. I mean, they'll be running down the street like it's the most exciting thing on the planet. Very different than being on your cell phone while um, and it's like that energy in children. It used to, it was there. Yeah. And it should still be there. So that is interesting. Yeah, it really is a secondary gain. And I think it's why a lot of people go to rituals and do retreats and do, other things. It's this, but still, yeah, because that's not why they're coming in. They're coming in because, they can't keep a job, or, you know,
Yeah.
they hate their mother, or, they whatever.
That's almost the breadcrumbs that lead them to the
Right.
bigger picture.
It really is. That's so fascinating to think about it. It really is a bigger picture, and and so important. And for us to live from that level, and yeah, that's really, really valuable. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. And just having these conversations, because I think that's what gets your mind working. I mean, that's when I first kind of discovered everything about past lives, as I went down the rabbit hole of reading and listening to podcasts and just listening to people talk about these things in itself. It opens up that area of possibility and play, and for us not to take ourselves so seriously, and to maybe not write off all the intuitive nudges that come through our mind as just, this is my vivid imagination. I actually interviewed a woman once, and her belief was that anything we can imagine must exist in a reality somewhere, or else it wouldn't have been able to be kind of dropped into our awareness. And I thought, wow, that is a really fascinating perspective, that we're not making it up, we're actually tapping into it. It might not be on our reality here right now on Earth, but somewhere it exists, and we're just picking up on that frequency as a radar.
Yeah, that is so fascinating because there's all kinds of historical like cities that used to be there that now nobody's there anymore. It's like what happened to the people, were they taken in by UFOs? Were they, you're absolutely right. I mean, the world is a mystery, but we're trying to pigeonhole it. And a lot of people are doing work on near-death experience. I've noticed that. And that sort of supports this past life work in the sense that it feels like they go somewhere. And I did some research and study because the work I did, there was no in-between life stuff. We went to the death and cleared the energy, so that they no longer had to carry that around with them. But there's a woman named Linda Backman, who I studied with, and she does a lot of between life stuff, which wasn't something that, I did, but in my work. But it's and she also does work with, are you a soul from this planet or from another planet? Inner planet. And some people talk about that. Well, I'm from Sirius. I'm from, this, that, and the other. That's what I mean. There's so many dimensions happening right now. And it's fun, I think. I think it's fun.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's endlessly fascinating once you allow yourself to at least believe in the possibility of, okay, what if there's something more? And I find when you're doing that work in those sessions, in that moment, you're holding this space that where you can suspend all of your judgments and beliefs and just be there. Feel what's coming in your body, feel the emotions, and feel the truth of that, and suspend everything else that the outside world tells you about how you should feel.
Should be. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely believe in reincarnation and the soul. I believe the soul is the part of us that reincarnates. This physical body disintegrates and, when it dies. But the soul doesn't. The soul, I think, is our immortal part. And I've had so many lifetimes. It's like and they're so real and so detailed, and um, that I absolutely believe in reincarnation. I mean, there's no question in my mind. But um, you know, I've been doing it for years.
I'm curious to hear more though about that process, and even that you said kind of your soul birthing this book. And I actually have a pertinent listener question about the book. And they ask about how what struck them was how your voice changes with each chapter, with each incarnation, and was curious a bit about that process of writing those different chapters, and if it surprised you at times what came up and how it came up like that. Because I've seen that in session. I'm sure you've noticed that the people, their voice, it changes, the tone changes, the cadence changes, the language that they're using, it's different from how they would use language in everyday life. So I'm curious how that process was like for you.
Yeah, I was on a I don't know. I don't know what I would call it, but when I wrote the book, it's like I was so focused on just doing that. I mean, every day I would write. And when I was writing a story, I was like in the story. And when I go back now and read the book, I'm surprised how sort of the details, the simple details. I mean, it's like it feels like you're there. But I hadn't thought about the tone of the voice had changed. That's fascinating. But yeah, because who I was in one life, in some in one life in particular I can think of, I was a real jerk. And but that's the other thing, is like being willing to see the good and the bad. it's like not every life is this delightful, fabulous thing. And we need not to beat ourselves up for it because we learn something in every lifetime that we're in. And so, oh God, when I think of what a jerk I was, and I think a lot of women hold memories of, say, the witch trials or the Inquisition. The Inquisition went on for 700 years. It wasn't something that just lasted like 20 years or 25 years. Okay. And I wrote about Montsegur, which I've been to Montsegur, and but the thing that is interesting about that years before I went to Montsegur, um, I was at a bookstore event, and I kept seeing this one guy there. This was years ago. This was like when I was like 25 in Boston or something. I kept seeing this one guy and kept hearing the word teacher, teacher, teacher. And so I finally went up to him and I said, I wasn't trying to hit on him or anything, but or flirt with him if I use the correct terminology of the older times. Um, that I went up to him and I said, I keep hearing the word teacher when I see you. And he said, meet me at the library tomorrow at 2:00. So I did. And he pulled out a book on Montsegur. And he said, this is what I'm here to teach you about. And I was like, that's how I first found out about Montsegur. Otherwise I would never have known about Montsegur and the Cathars and, who they were and, all that kind of stuff. But it's a fabulous place if you ever get a chance to go.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, as much as on the outside, people will always have opinions and judgments, and the internet is tons filled with tons of people like that. Yourself, what you know and what you don't know, and what you've studied and what you've not studied, and what information you had access to before, and what you just had intuitive nudges or heard things of before that. And it can be, I don't know, a very mind-blowing experience, frankly, to into that.
Well, it can be. I mean, and I could have easily ignored that. I don't want to go up to this strange guy and tell him I'm hearing the word teacher, but I was in a new age bookstore, so it kind of fit. But that's it's true. It's amazing. And something just went through my brain and it went in and out, but something about what you just said. Um, it's amazing what we know and don't know, and believe and heal. We have the ability to heal ourselves, and I think it's great that you're doing the podcast and introducing people to this technique. It's important.
It is a really empowering thing to realize that we have that power within us. And yes, of course, I don't believe we're meant to be solitary as humans. And that when you're working with other practitioners, they provide this beautiful reflection in a mirror. When your stuff is so close to your face, you can't see it. But I find we frequently outsource our power to experts. And I've been there. I've done that you are the expert on the pedestal and you know about me more than I know about myself. And when you really quiet down that outside world and go inward, there's your answers or the breadcrumbs to follow, just with the teacher example, that there's something that is guiding you and propelling you to what you seek.
Mm-hmm. And it just popped back in. What I was going to say is I'm a Pisces. I have a lot of Pisces in my chart, a lot. I mean, so for me, even as a young child, to see into another dimension is you could see. I mean, I can understand as an astrologer that a Pisces would be more likely to see that world. But then as I got older, you know, it's you have to hold on to it. But yeah, I do think that because some people would be more sensitive than other people. If the birth chart is your soul's journey for this life, the map for your soul in this lifetime. Okay, I came in this body, and here's my map. That's an interesting way of thinking about it, And yeah, I absolutely, believe that we have these lifetimes, and it's our soul and our unconscious where it's held. And there's been so much research, with Ian Stevenson's stuff, and I love the Dalai Lama. He's the 14th Dalai Lama, and the way they pick the Dalai Lama is they go when they're small children, and they bring a bunch of objects that the Dalai Lama who died had, like his favorite cup or his favorite bowl or his favorite stick, or you know what I mean. But they bring it with a whole bunch of different things, and the child has to pick out all the objects that it used in the other lifetime. That's how they verify that this is the Dalai Lama. Isn't that wild?
Oh, it's wild. It is. And goes hand in hand with these children you see that are just amazing at their craft. They're, an amazing artist, or they can play an instrument like no other 5-year-old should be able to play piano like that, or dance in a way that is beyond their age. And it makes so much sense how you're talking about the objects. If you're pulling in all of that, it's not just this lifetime, but you're pulling in all of your experience before then it would make sense that, well, yeah, you've mastered that. You may be a little child, but as a soul, you have vast experience in that. So I love that concept of, I didn't know that, going in and identifying the objects and intuitively just knowing.
Yeah, recognizing what you actually used.
Yes.
And yeah, well, I mean, I could say a lot about the Dalai Lama and reincarnation based on that, but uh, he said he's thinking he might not reincarnate again because China kidnapped the Panchen Lama, who's the second in command, second when it was a small child, and nobody's seen the Panchen Lama for like 15 years or something. It's been raised by the Chinese, so he's concerned that the Chinese will pick the Dalai Lama. That I don't know if you know that China has taken over Tibet, or is certainly in the process of trying to. Um, so he's saying he's not sure he's going to reincarnate again. There might not be a 15th Dalai Lama because he's afraid that the Chinese will kidnap the small child and put somebody else in its place. So it's so fascinating that he thinks of reincarnation like it's like strategically, I guess I would have to say.
Yeah, so you're looking at the long game, so to speak, and
Right.
just
Yeah.
one lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess there's a point. I don't know if you've heard the term bodhisattva, but a bodhisattva is somebody who's been through enough lifetimes that they now have the memory and the knowledge, and they're what you might term enlightened, though in my book I don't like that term. I like illuminated better. Um, and so it's like, so at some point in the reincarnation cycle, you see it and you know who you really are. And that's the Dalai Lama is a bodhisattva. He knows who he really is. So, yeah, but to be able to see it in such a way and to make those kinds of decisions, this is where I want to be born, and I want to be born this way, and I want to be born this. And I did some of that in my book. It's like, well, what do I want in my next life? Well, next life, I want to be stronger. I want to be more powerful. I want to be clearer. And then I end up being a warrior who's clueless.
Yeah, that happens like that.
Oops, got my way on that one. Yeah, I might be clueless but I'm strong and powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
You wanted, yeah. Did you find working through those lives, or at the beginning? I remember you mentioned the Atlantis past life, that one proved to be one that you needed to dig into more. You found that there were those lives that were just held more, that were a little bit stickier, trickier. Do you find that comes up? I don't know, I kind of like these core lives, right? They hold more for whatever.
Yeah, and more karma, you
Yeah.
know, And, I describe karma as like almost a pattern that happens. Like if you're powerful but clueless 2 or 3 lives in a row, that pattern gets built in. And so it's a little harder to unravel it. Um, so the Atlantis life, because I blamed myself for the fall of Atlantis. I mean, that's a pretty big blame. So by working through the Atlantis stuff, I finally get like, no, I'm not responsible for the fall of Atlantis. I did everything I could do to stop it. But but I blamed myself. Well, if I had done better, if I had done it differently, this wouldn't have happened. If I hadn't trusted this guy, and none of this would have occurred. So it was that lifetime was a bigger one in the sense that if you were working therapeutically with somebody, you might have to do 2 or 3 sessions to clear that life. Other lives are simpler and they can be cleared in one session. Have you noticed that? I mean,
Yes, absolutely. With clients and my own experiences too, that some it's like boom, 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 you just flick through them, and other ones it's just wow. Right? There's a lot there. And yeah, it definitely takes a lot to look at the different aspects too. And the death being a big aspect, but also, like you said, all these other themes of loss and betrayal. And I find they're also those ones that take more work to clear, seem to be more closely tied with whatever we're here to do now. It's kind of like it mirrors that our deepest fears and insecurities in this lifetime. Yeah.
right. It really does. I mean, and what just entered my mind is we need strong and powerful women now. Do you know what I mean? It's the masculine and the feminine are coming up to be the divine masculine and feminine, where there's equality. And we need that now. But so many women, it's like, I don't want people to see who I am. I don't want to be, women were burnt at the stake for just being bossy. Yeah. They didn't, they might not even be a real witch, even though they certainly were witches and herbalists. And um, so it's like, I think that's what I would call a universal, like, I discuss that in my book that some things have universal implications. And I think women coming into their own power, they might hit a block and really need to move through that block so that they can be fully who they are. And that would be one of the things that, you're doing.
And I see that pattern time and time again, that anyone that's called to, this kind of energetic healing realm of work, or that wants to put themselves out there, and they come across that block, like you said, that there's some sort of safety issue around being seen as a healer, a witch, a mystic, a woo-woo, that penetrates so deeply that even, sending an email to talk on a podcast or putting up something on social media becomes to the subconscious a life or death sentence of, if we put that up on social media, someone's going to come after us and, like you said, burn us at the stake. And it's so deep that I find the subconscious is so immensely wise, but can be quite literal of, well, we don't want to die again. So in order to preserve this life, we're going to bring up all of this fear about being seen, because if you put that up on social media, then you're going to die. That it's a direct link.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you're reminding me of you're absolutely right of a situation, because one of mine thing is my greatest gift is what gets me in trouble. Okay. So if I'm an herbalist and a really good one, that's what gets me burnt at the stake. If I'm a healer, then that's what gets me, whatever. And I can see where I still need to work on that issue, by the way, because when I had my master's degree, okay, and I was working in a psychiatrist's office and blending past life work with astrology, with psychology, I saw my own clients. I saw his, I worked for him and got paid so much per hour for if I, diagnosed somebody with the DSM-3. But then I also could see my own clients in his office, which sort of surprised me. Well, somebody called me from a newspaper, the capital of West Virginia, Charleston, and interviewed me and wanted to know how I was integrating all this stuff, and wrote a really pretty good article and took a picture of me at an observatory, you know what I mean? So I looked like I was like, then the next day, the editor of the newspaper wrote the editorial, the big editorial, saying that I was a complete fraud and that I was using my advanced degree to, hijack people and fool them into thinking that something was. So he like completely trashed me. And which wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had that, newspaper article and done that interview. And my brother, who was a lawyer at the time, thought we should sue for whatever you call it when people are nasty to you for. And but I was on my way to Pittsburgh to get my PhD, and I didn't want to get involved in a big lawsuit. But it was weird that what should have been a really beautiful thing was used against me. So some of that patterning is still happening. And but I feel good about this podcast because it's
Yeah. So I was going to say, so what do you think? What do you think is I don't know, the solution to break through that patterning? Because you're right. Some of it runs really deep, but some behaviors and patterns are easier to break through, and some it seems like that's your Achilles heel, and that's going to be your lifetime work in this
right.
incarnation.
You're right. And playing it, hiding or playing it cool or not making yourself be seen, it might not be the best thing for the planet, for you, for your family, for, anything. So it's true. I mean, we all need to work through those. I mean, it took me forever to publish my book because I was afraid people would think I was crazy. But I got to the point where, oh, well, they can think I'm crazy. But I think there's like 20 billion people on the planet who don't think I'm crazy. And that, anybody who believes in reincarnation. So, but yeah, no, I still need a little bit of work myself. I think we all do. I mean, we could all be polished up a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a powerful process. It's going deep into your unconscious and finding what else is in there that's blocking you. Yeah.
And I like that you talk about it as a long-term process, that as long as we're human, we're in process. Because I remember for a while I was on this mission of I'm just going to dig down and I'm going to like just madly start ripping out all the roots. I'm going to do all of the work and then I'm going to get it done. And then I'm going to have nothing else in the rest of this life that's going to be bothering me. And that didn't work out so well, because that's a great way to energetically burn out, and in the process physically burn out your body as well. When you just go into all of it, like I'm gonna do this all. Oh, and that it really is. It's a process, and things have to integrate into the body and into the physical world that take longer. And that it's not this race to be done and to be healed. And now I'm, this perfect healed person, that you get thrown into another layer and you get called to go deeper into it.
Right. And then you find out another lesson that, oh, gee, I should have been aware of that. But I think that's, that I try to remember we're human, and humans by nature are imperfect. And that's how come I liked me using illumination instead of, because I always wanted to be enlightened. Okay. Well, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and it never happened. But I like the idea of illumination, which is more like the moon. Sometimes we're shining brightly and sometimes we're not. And most of the time it's part way, you know what I mean? It's like a quarter moon or a half moon or whatever. And I like that, is that sometimes we're not 100% on, and that's okay, because it'll come back, just like the moon. The sun is always radiant. And I think that's the enlightenment piece. But I think more that human beings, we're not perfect. Even if we come in, pretty good, we're still not going to be perfect, because we're humans.
Yeah, we already give ourselves such a hard time.
We already do. It's like, well, I've been studying this for years. I should be better at it. It's like, just chill, wait till next week. Maybe you'll feel better, and
yeah. And that's okay, because then you kind of run the risk of judging. Well, I'm not enlightened because I still have these triggers and I'm still angry at that person who cut me off in traffic, and
Right.
yourself up further that I'm not this perfect enlightened being, when that's part of the process is.
No, but I am illuminated. It's like a dimmer switch, for the soul. It's like right now I'm radiant and that's great. But, I might wake up next week and be sick and I'm in the dark and I'm not radiant. And I'm not going to beat myself up for being sick. I'm going to find out what would you say, energetic energy that we are blocked in our bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and what's going on, and like any cycles that it cycles around. There's ebb and flow, and like you said about the moon cycle, and even women and their menstrual cycles. Everything is in a cycle. The seasons, that
Yes.
cycles are everywhere around us, like a reminder, like smacking us, right?
Right. We don't have to be, bright and shiny 24/7, 7 days a week for all year. We're allowed to go into fall and winter where we rest and recuperate and, are born again in the spring. We're getting ready to have our summer solstice. Yeah. So that's when we are supposed to be shining, right?
Yes. And I think that's a beautiful reminder that even as profound and deep as this work is, that you're still human at the end of the day. And you're still allowed to be imperfect. And this isn't going to be, the magic bullet, the magic pill that just solves it. And after this, you're just going to, never experience anything, I guess, that we label as negative emotions that we judge in the first place. That
Right.
it's a process, and you're still human at the end.
Right. And that's why you're here. You're here to learn. And maybe that upset fight that you had with your husband the other day, you're learning from it, and that's okay because, or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, that we're imperfect, but we're here to learn and we bring so much to it and we can be shiny. We can shine ourselves up, you know.
Mhm. I'm curious, kind of coming to a close here, is there, I don't know, what you would say one of your biggest or bigger lessons that you have learned by diving into these series of lives, from your book, from beyond, even from witnessing what clients are going through? Are there any big major themes that you came out of it, or when you finished writing that book and connected the dots and thought, oh,
Well, I think one of the big ones, and I've already said it, but I think it is that we're not a body with a soul. We're a soul with a body. Okay. And that we need to start living as if we're our soul, and take care of this body and appreciate this body and appreciate this life. Um, because it's part of our growth. We're here to learn something or to give something. Um, so I would say that's a big one. And the other big one is what we just mentioned, that as humans, we're just naturally imperfect. So no matter how hard we work on ourselves, that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. And to have compassion, compassion and for yourself and for other people. So yeah, I think you know we're here to gain consciousness, to grow in consciousness through these experiences, both soul experiences and physical experiences. And so every time we come back, we can give more, we can do more, we can be more. We're still going to have some ups and downs, but yeah, it- you know, um, but I'm not doing some of the things I used to do many, 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 many years ago. Okay.
that was a one-time thing. Like I'm good after that experience.
Yeah, yeah, I don't need to like murder that person again or whatever it is, or be sacrificed on the altar, I can do without that. But so I think that's the main thing is just to realize that we really are much greater and deeper and richer and more dimensional than we could tend to. And doing the interior work of exploring your past lives can open up that dimension that can help you heal. It can bring up your soul wounds so that you can heal them and not have them be affecting you in this lifetime. Um, and you know, just make the and really appreciate it. Our time here is limited, you know. We're all going to die. But I like the idea that, yeah, we're going to die from this body. And this has been a good body. This has been a good life. I've had fun. I've gotten around. But I'll come back. I don't know when or how or where. And, there is that interest in what happens between lives. And some people think we meet back up with our soul pod, the people that are our allies. And we talk about what happened and how it went and what do I want to learn the next time I do it. And I like that idea. I don't have a real clear feel for that in the same way I do my other lifetimes, but I've experienced some of it. But it's like your best buds, and so the people that you love in this lifetime, you might see them again in another lifetime. And they're your allies. And sometimes you have adversaries, and I've discovered that, and I've cleared the energy between us so I don't have to see them again in another life. I'm not going to, carry a grudge and hate somebody because that just is karmically pulling them towards me. It's like I clear the karma, cut the bonds, you know what I mean? So I don't have to see them again. So you have a lot of choice, I think. Anyway, that was more than one thing, but the biggest thing is that we're a soul that has a body. We're not a body with a soul that either goes to heaven or hell when you die, you know what I mean? Or someplace, I don't know, Egyptian maybe. They have the land of the golden sun or something like that. I don't know where people go, but I actually taught a class on reincarnation and the different concepts of reincarnation in different cultures, and it was pretty fascinating. Yeah, yeah. Reincarnation seems unusual but I think I told you 30% or 33% of Christians believe in reincarnation. And then there's a whole group of people that's spiritual but not religious. I don't know if you've heard of that. SBNR, spiritual but not religious. Those are the people who have left the churches and the synagogues and the mosques and stuff, but they still have a strong spiritual sense. Um, like 55% of them believe in reincarnation. So there's a lot of people who believe in reincarnation. This is from the Pew Report, PEW, Pew Report. Um, and it's worth checking out. It's like there's a whole dimension of yourself that you might not even be aware of. I'm not saying you, but I mean the human that's listening.
Yeah. And that it's an amazing place to go. I think there's this, I see this fear over and over again of what am I going to discover? Did I hide something away in my subconscious that I don't want to know about? And there's this fear of it's safer to outsource my power to someone else to tell me how to think and feel and what to do about my health. But going inside is a scary thing. And I think it's such an empowering experience to open that door, to go in, that so many of us have conditioned, don't go inside. And that's where the power is. Even when we were talking about learning how to think, that's a powerful thing, is to educating a whole generation of people who are thinking for themselves. And when you go in, it's empowering. Yes, there's work. It's not all fluffy rainbows and unicorns all the time, but
No.
my gosh, if you really are at the point in your life where you can't keep doing what you're doing and you need a change, well, you need to do something different. And sometimes that's a switch in perspective.
Yeah, it is. But when you're saying, they don't want to do it themselves, that's the first thing you work with. Is find
Mhm.
out where that wound came from.
Where's
So
that
that
from?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it that you're scared of going?
Well, yeah, what happened that made you scared? Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's clean that up. Let's get rid of that one. Yeah, that's probably a basic one, probably for most people. It's like the fear. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the fear of going inside is scarier than anything in the external world. I think it's a fascinating thing. And I don't know why it is if, like you said, maybe a lot of people carry this fear from other lives. If this is a conditioning, we're conditioned to trust the experts and we shouldn't know more about ourselves or our bodies or for our whole lives, teachers, doctors, parents told us who we are and what labels we have, that maybe there's a disconnection from that trust of inside. But I've seen it too. It's like this epidemic of self-doubt and trust and even willing to go there. Like this land of internal work is the most terrifying place to be when it's really a coming home.
And it is. And no, you're right. And it's socialization. That's the word. That's where, and that's how come 2 and 3 and 4-year-old children can remember their past lives, but you start getting socialized in school and you're being told to sit here, don't talk, do this, you get 20 minutes for this, you get 30 minutes for that, and then it goes on and on and on. We become socialized, and so that we fit in. And and anyway, we don't want to talk about AI, but that's
A lot of us now are on that fence of, I don't know, you either love it or you hate it, or you're trying to kind of coexist with it in a way, but it definitely something in this, era that's wow.
it's wow. I mean, computers were huge, phones are huge. I don't know how many times a day I go, where's my phone? Where did I leave my phone?
Yes, yes, and to think there was a time where that in your lifetime it wasn't a thing in your memory. You can remember not being so glued, and then you talk about kids being on their phones, and if you're thinking, well, I'm a full-fledged adult with a fully developed brain, and I'm still
On my phone
getting sucked into this thing.
all the time. I liked it better when we had one phone in the house and it rang and you picked it up and it's like, I miss that. I actually do. But these are things that we have to learn how to work around. So maybe that's our next challenge.
Mm,
It just struck me that could be a reason to feed the right brain, the intuitive brain, is because the left brain is getting so much stimulus right now, with computers and all that stuff. So maybe it's super important. This could be a secondary gain, okay? Is that doing the kind of work, the internal work, you're stimulating and encouraging your right brain so that there stays more of a balance, so that the intellect doesn't get to take over completely.
I like that.
I mean, I love my intellect, but I don't,
Yes. Well, and neither are inherently good or bad. It's just when one takes over, right? It's you don't want one to become
right.
out of balance with the other.
Correct. You want to have the two of them connect, and we want them to be balanced, to work from both arenas. And that brings in consciousness, and that's what we need. So part of this is stimulating that right brain. Oh, I like that.
That too. I find these conversations, it opens up the possibilities, the flow to come up with these ideas of, oh, that's interesting. Times when people they connect and they look in their faces and something that AI or phones and technology can't replace is that energetic exchange. And that's where those ideas and magic and inventions and everything come up, because you think, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder who else thinks that. Start working your way around like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, it's amazing. It's like we're helping to keep the subconscious, the connection to soul, the connection to spirit, the connection to consciousness alive through this work. That's an exciting thought, really.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep thing to put on your resume, isn't it?
It's not Steve Jobs, or I invented the computer, but
Helping to save human consciousness.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. It just saves humanity from going down a deep end, whatever.
Thank you, Lilan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. It's been fun.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Past Life Project. For more information how I can help you to access the wisdom of your subconscious mind to support deep healing and transformation, visit my website at moniqueglover.com. If you loved what you just listened to, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until next time.